Hello YouTube, and welcome to Coding Explained. In this episode, we will be covering object-oriented programming. Now, making your code object-oriented is extremely important in the world of computer programming. Following object-oriented guidelines will allow you to have better code structure, well-defined objects, and good code reusability. I created a small program to better illustrate how object-oriented programming works. Not so important at the time to understand how I made this program, so don't worry. It's simply there to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. On the screen you'll see the visualization of an object. I call this object the knight object. Think of the knight object as a classical fantasy character. He's a small knight who has life and attack as attributes. In object-oriented programming, we create templates for what we want. These templates are called objects. Right now, I want a knight character who has life and attack as attributes. I also want him to have some base methods. I want him to be able to walk, I want him to be able to attack, I want him to be able to take damage, and I want him to be able to die if he takes too much damage. Now that you have the templates, you can basically create as many clones of the template you want. Each clone will be a knight in its own right, with its own stats, its own life, its own attack, its own walk, and they will be controlled individually. Let's try to make some small clones here. I will give the first the stats of 100 life and 10 attack. The knight equals to new knight button will create a new instance of our knight object. In object-oriented programming, we oftentimes talk about instances. An instance is a copy of the original object in its own right. This syntax is incidentally also how you call it in C#. You call a new version of the object. Now when I click the button, you'll see a new knight appearing. This knight will have its own stats, its own life, and its own attack. These stats will be completely independent of the original knight and any other knights that we make. Now, I will go ahead and create a couple of other instances of the object. What is important to understand is that every object is its own, with its own attack and its own defense. Even the objects that has the same attack and defense are individual. I can call different methods on different objects. For example, this knight right now is calling the attack function, but that is not affecting the other knights. We have now created 4 individual copies of the original knight. Notice how they have individual functions and individual stats. We will now make one of them move while the other stands still. It can easily be seen how this is especially good for games programming, since every player would be able to keep track of their own life and their own attack. Now, the knight will attack the other knights to illustrate the objects in different states. One knight is up and walking with 500 lives and 1000 attack, while the other knights lie dead on the floor with minus life. The ability of the objects to have these individual states is at the core of object-oriented programming. Let's take a look at some simplified code. Now we'll create some simplified code to better illustrate what we just did. We have a knight class down here, and that knight class will have some attributes. We will have life, and we will have attack. We will also have some mock functions that we will not fill out right now. That will be walk, attack, and we also saw that the knights would be able to be killed. So, if they take too much damage, they will die. Now, if we want to create a new instance of the knight, in C# it's pretty damn simple. We just say knight, and then we call new knight. To be clear, we take the name of the class, which is knight, we give it a name, which we have chosen to be knight1, and then we call new knight. New knight will create a new function like we saw just before. Knight1 will have an attack property, its attack can be set to whatever you want, and a life property. Like the knights that you saw before, each knight will be individual. Therefore, they need an individual name to identify them. Knight 2 will be far stronger than Knight 1. Its attack could be 500, and its life 1000. Now, if we want Knight 2 to move, we simply call walk. Knight 2 will now be walking. This is rather simplified code, but it will illustrate how you will be able to call new instances of the objects you made. I made the knight class myself. The class could be anything. You could make a car class. The car could have a drive function, a stop function. A class could be anything. The important thing to realize is that once you have the class, you're essentially just making clones of what you already created. There will be more lectures with the topic of object-oriented programs in the future, and they will certainly look deeper into the subject. But I hope that this little introduction has given you something to work with. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as possible. If you're interested in more videos like this, subscribe to my channel for more Coding Explained.